All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Just dropped the attendance poll in the chat again, um, but we can send it if you're just joining us. Happy Thursday. Thanks for coming to our admin solar contractor training. Little housekeeping. As usual, mute your mic. Please direct any questions you have to the chat. We'll try to get those answered as we go. And there'll be also designated question slides. Current project wait times, application and letter of intent is taking about 3 to 4 weeks. From submission, DGPA reviews 1 to 2 weeks. Final documentation review about 3 weeks. Inspections are 2 to 3 weeks, and shutdown wait times, I think this is about 2 months now, depending on the location. And then for meeting attendance, make sure you fill out that poll so we can mark you as attended. Make sure you put your company name. That's the most important part. And then upcoming meetings, like we've stated in previous meetings, we now have a calendar for our contractor meetings and other customer renewable solution events. Make sure you're checking that. And if you do not get a link to these meetings, just reach out to the Solar at inbox. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday, October 16th, and that's going to be our general contractor meeting. It's mandatory for all participating solar contractors. And then a little safety moment. We're nearing fall. However, in Austin, we know that is just a false fall usually up until like November. So make sure that you're still following heat safety protocol, take frequent breaks in the shade, regularly consume water and electrolytes, and wear layers since mornings are cooler and it gets a little bit warmer in the afternoons. Prepare for dark mornings at work. Make sure you're wearing visible and reflective clothing and use portable lights when needed. Same time, protect yourself during cold and flu season. Get your annual flu vaccine. Stay home from work when you feel sick, and make sure to wash your hands. And we have a handful of announcements that we'll go over. All right. So we've created an online self-serve solar contractor training course or courses, and those will cover many of the topics we go over in these meetings. The course catalog, as you can see, required program documents, that's going to include our contractor handbook and our code of conduct. Fair and accurate transaction Act, our FACTA training is going to be required if you need to access EECP. That's basically going over customer information security and protection. The required program documents and FACTA are supposed to be renewed every year, but we'll go more into that in the requirements for active participating contractors. The content we go over usually in our admin and technical trainings are also going to be on this online platform. All right, so who's required to take these LMS courses? Right now, since launch is next week, we are only requiring registering solar contractors to take these courses. We're not going to require any active participating contractors up until the new year. Upon request, we may request active participating contractors to complete these courses if you have program violations or if you're out of compliance. And then where can you access these courses? It's going to be in Talent LMS, online learning platform. If you need to access these courses, please email solar@. We will send a link and sign up instructions. and then getting credit for your course completion. During sign up, users should match details in EECP account, so email, vendor number, name. So when you do complete these courses, we can match it to whoever is requesting EECP access. And then the courses will be available next Thursday, September 25th. Like I said, we're not requiring active participating contractors to take these courses. We will be requesting that, new registering participating contractors will need to complete these to be part of our programs. It is an educational resource. If you have a new employee who doesn't know how to use EECP, we can provide that the link for these courses so that they can use it as a resource. And we will still also have these meetings, even though a lot of the content will be online. We're gonna hopefully, free up some space to introduce new exciting topics, new speakers, so that these meetings are more engaging and, we're not just going over the same thing each admin meeting. And then as a reminder, our solar education course content is updated to a new format. It's web-based modular format, no more slideshow for customers. It's more interactive. We have interactive documents such as a bill explainer and more to come. It's easier to find. It's right on our website. The same quiz and reference number still apply to rebate applications. The customer will take the same quiz and will supply participating contractors with that reference number so that they can input that into EECP. All right, then I think I'm going to hand it over to Megan.
Thanks, Ruby. Good morning, everyone. So as part of continuing announcements, we wanted to make, or rather to make notice that contractor and subcontractor requirements for inspections are very important. They have not changed, but we wanted to give you guys some reminders. To request solar inspections, contractors and subcontractors must hold a TECL license associated with your City of Austin registration, and it needs to be listed on the permit. You also need to be listed on the permit or included as an agent on the member tab for the people associated to that permit. If you've got questions on how to do that, just reach out to solarinspections@austinenergy.com, or you can also reach out to DSD directly to get that update. But you should be able to modify your existing permit or modify your existing account so that you can add any subs to it that are needed there. For all solar inspections, Austin Energy will verify that information. We're going to look at those TECL numbers. We're going to look at the TDLR numbers and make sure that they're on your vehicle and that you've got that license on hand. And we encourage you to please use that license number when emailing. We'd really like to require it. However, we know that not every single person coming into that inbox is going to have a TECL number. But please do remind your teammates and coworkers to add that to their email signatures to make that a little bit easier so that we can see that going forward. Alrighty. That said, Smart Sheets is now gone. So that is a big announcement we've been working on for a while. If you guys have that link saved and are hoping to still go to that Smart Sheet inspection request form, you will probably find something very different today because there's a new landing page that sends you right to the Austin Build and Connect portal. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but just keep in mind, we do want all inspections going through the Austin Build and Connect portal at this point. So if you're still submitting them through Smartsheet or vice versa, just know that we are having to do double tracking of all of those inspections, and it is causing some delays, unfortunately. So please do start to familiarize yourself with that new process and reach out to us if you have any questions or any issues getting those emails or those inspections scheduled. All right, and with that, I will turn it back over to you, Ruby. Thank you. Oh, apologies. I think this one's mine too. Sorry, Ruby. Okay, so just kidding. One final announcement here, and then I'll turn it back over to Ruby. So SB 1202, third-party permit and inspections. I think that you guys probably all saw this, but Texas legislation just passed this and went into effect September 1st of 2025. Keep in mind that this bill pertains to third-party review and inspection for home backup power installations, and it is defined what that means in the bill. So feel free to go and check out that final text of that bill. But please also realize that the 2247-0025B specifically reserves municipal utilities' right to implement and enforce its tariff and interconnection service and policies, which means that if you have an Austin Energy customer, we will not be doing any changes to how we do auxiliary permits, how we review those permits, and then how we inspect those permits. So just keep in mind in the city of Austin, that will stay consistent and true for any battery backup or any solar. So this bill will not impact us as a municipally owned utility. All right, I did see a question in the chat. So Jamika, thank you for this question. It says, for the new inspection for the aux, do we choose final inspection? Yes. So you'll choose final inspection, and the verbiage is actually final solar inspection. So you'll choose that every time. If you do not see the final solar inspection option available, you can use the 305. That's still a good backup. However, it is not the preferred. Usually we're going to use the 305s to close out other electrical permits or for battery only permits. So if you don't see the final solar inspection, you can use it. But if the final solar inspection is there, please use that for your final. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. All right. So Austin Energy solar rates. As we reiterate, anytime we can, we do not net meter. Instead, we've established rates to compensate customers for their solar production. We have our value of solar bill credit, and then this year we launched the commercial solar standard offer program, which includes standard offer tariff. These rates are based on the cost avoided by local solar generation, and both rates are updated once every 3 years to trend with market changes. One thing to point out is between the two, value of solar rate and the standard offer tariff, the payee for the value of solar is going to be the account holder. And for the standard offer tariff, it's going to be the system owner or third party. Another important thing to note is that under the value of solar rate, no application in EACP is required. Any customer who installs solar is going to, in Austin Energy territory, is going to receive the value of solar rate on their utility bill. And then for the commercial standard offer tariff, an application is required to participate in the program. Feel free to look at the differences between the two. Another big difference is system size requirements. All right, and then for understanding your value of solar bill credit, the total generation is equal to all monthly solar energy production. This includes energy used by the customer, energy sent back to the grid, and then the whole house consumption is equal to the all the energy used on site. Total generation is going to be used to calculate your solar, your value of solar credit. And then for whole house consumption, normal residential or commercial rates apply to that total house consumption. We also have a more interactive value of solar bill explainer on our website. So if your customers have any questions about that, that's a really good resource for them to understand their bill line by line. And then the standard offer tariff is a little different. So this is going to be the bill of the system owner, not the host. If the host is having solar on their roof, getting those lease payments, they're not going to see a difference in their electric bill. So host or system owners will receive a bill with their monthly service fee, and then the total generation measured by the received read is going to be used to calculate their standard offer payment. And then I'm going to pass it over to Athena to talk about programs.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome for our solar and Austin Energy incentive programs. A couple of notes. These apply to all of our solar programs. The first thing is only participating solar contractors can offer the rebates and incentives. Also, it's the participating contractor's responsibility to apply for these rebates on your customer's behalf. You all will have access to our rebate portal, EECP. And so that's where all of our documents, things like that are going to be submitted. You all have access to this. Therefore, it's your responsibility to apply for these on behalf of your customers. Also, all rebate and incentive applications are processed through EECP. So again, you guys are going to have access to this. We want you all to be able to do work through any EECP things. Our incentives are designed to go to the customers who are adding solar. So this is going to go, the incentives will go to the customer. And then in the case of standard offer, Ruby did a good job moments ago, but we'll go through that again. And then an Austin Energy letter of approval is required before installing. So you'll get an email. This goes through email. So make sure that when you're going through ECP, your email is correct, that you're receiving emails regularly through that. That's where you're going to get your email. And that's the email that will say you're good to install. And then also rebate programs are optional for customers. So if, something with this project doesn't hit quite all of our guidelines, you can still install. They just won't be eligible for the program, for the rebates. All right. Okay. So our programs are by property and by meter type. So if you're a residential property, pretty straightforward, you're going to go residential meter and you can apply for the residential rebate program. Quick caveat though, they do have to be above 3 kW system sizes. So for multifamily, there's two options, again, depending on the meter. So if it's a residentially metered property, then you'll go through the shared solar program. And this requires 5 units or more. If the multifamily property is commercially metered, then it can go through either the capacity-based incentive program, the performance-based incentive program, or our standard offer program. All right. So for residential, the way that it works is that we want our customers to be able to read through and take our online quiz. Once they take the quiz, they'll get an enrollment number. They will give that number to you all, the contractors. Then we'll have our customer agreement form and some, all of these forms will get uploaded into EECP. Once we review all of that information, we will send out a confirmation letter. Again, once you get that confirmation letter, you're good to install. Afterwards, the customer will receive their $2,500 rebate check. And then just a reminder that if you install before you get the confirmation letter, you will not be eligible for the incentive. All right, so for the multifamily solar rebate program, the way that it works is that the installation rebate will go to the property owner, and this is a one-time check. And then the ongoing solar bill credits will go to the tenants. So the tenants will be able to benefit from value of solar, even though the property owner owns the multifamily business. And so right now for nonprofits, it's $1 per watt as the rebate level. And then the for-profits are 60 cents per watt. There are a couple of setup fees that are associated with this program, but definitely check out our guidelines for all those information. All right. So commercial solar incentive programs, we've got two here. So it's a capacity-based and then a performance-based. For our capacity-based, it's a one-time check at the end of the project. And these are for our smaller system sizes and the nonprofit. So for nonprofit, the rebate level is a little bit higher, 70 cents per watt. And then the smaller projects on the for-profit businesses are 50 cents per watt. And then we've got our performance-based incentive. So this is a PBI, and it's for like larger systems, medium, large, extra large. For these projects, the customer will receive an on-bill credit once everything is complete. And this on-bill credit will be on their bill for 5 years. So the way to calculate the payment would be the monthly production times the rebate level. So 8, 6, or 4 cents, depending on the size of the system. Also, you will get the value of solar, or your customer will receive the value of solar in addition to the performance-based incentive. For capacity-based, they're still going to receive the value of solar rate. It's just the one-time check. All right, so the way that it works is for commercial incentives, we have some documents that need to be signed, the customer agreement form in specific. Once those are signed and reviewed, Austin Energy will encumber those funds and for 120 days in order for you all to finalize the contract and get the DGPA approved. Once those documents are approved, signed, and uploaded into EECP, then we will issue the letter of intent to fund. And so once you have that letter, then you can install the system for the commercial projects. Excuse me. But please make sure to not install until you get the LOI. So now commercial standard offer. So with this program, there are 3 parties, right? So the system host, who is the existing Austin Energy customer, who's hosting the solar project on their property. Then we have the system owner. So this can either be the system host or a third party that leases the space from the system host that's installing and operating the solar system. So the system owner is going to be responsible for all the system things. And then the third party, or the next part, or the last party, I guess, is the participating solar contractor. So the solar contractor installs, applies for the permits, installs the system, just like normal. So the benefit of this is that the system owner will receive the standard offer rate. And then, so for systems smaller than a megawatt, it's 11.24 cents per kWh. And then larger systems over a megawatt, 8.41 cents per kWh. So the host will receive a lease payment of some sort with the system owner, and so that's the benefit to the system host. The system owner will get the standard offer rate, so that's the benefit to the system owner. And then the payment method is that we will issue a system owner. Payments will be issued no later than every 3 months. All right. So we did go through all of our programs, but this is a quick wrap up. So for the residential, we want you all to, or we want our customers to take the solar quiz. Then we'll have a submittal, review, approval, and then some final documentation. So the prep, submittal, and review is a little bit different depending on what program you have, but every program, we do want you all to get a letter of approval before you install. So that's the big one here. It's in green. That's green. Green means go, right? And then we do want some final documentation at the end. All right. So that is our summary slide. With that, I will pass it back to Ruby.
Thank you, Athena. Oh, do you want to just speak on program capacity real quick?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Sorry, these are my slides too.
That's good.
So just a quick recap of our program capacity. So standard offer, we do have a 20 megawatt pause. Right now we're at 30% of those. So Then for our CBI, we are at our 4th tier, and we are at 9% capacity. And then for the last program, PBI, we're at 32% of our tier 2. So those are our wrap-ups of what is available for those incentive programs. All right.
All right. So program documents. We have our program guidelines and our CAF. Just a quick summary of all of this. Everything is going to be located in your EUCP portal on your main page under publications. Program guidelines outline the procedures and qualifications for our rebate programs. And moving to CAF, each customers have to sign the CAF for each incentive application in EUCP. And this is also just to confirm important information about the solar installation details. And we want to ensure that those details have been communicated to the customer accurately. And some frequently asked questions about these. Customers must initial agreement wherever you see those lines on the left. Subcontractors are allowed, but it has to be disclosed under contractor details. For residential, customers are required to take the solar ed course, and the quiz confirmation number has to be provided on the CAF. If the estimated system production is more than 110% of the customer's consumption, we just require you to state the reason for oversizing that system. And as always, the incentive amount must match ECP. Any of these solar project details, if they don't match an ECP, we will send them back and request corrections. Then I'm going to pause because we have some questions in the chat. But it looks like Megan is on them.
I'll just say, Ruby, I've got all but one. I didn't want to answer the one about the feasibility study on the standard offer program, because I'm not sure if that happens before the submittal or during the submittal. Athena, Ruby, y'all want to weigh in on that one?
Hey, y'all. Yeah, so I'll drop the link in the chat, but yes, you will do a feasibility study for systems 500 and above. And that does go for like documents before we give you the LOA. So a letter of intent to approve, letter of approval, sorry. But yes, do this before you install.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, so participating contractor registration process. We do have some updates to this process. The first two steps, so City of Austin vendor registration and Austin Energy registration, those are going to be the same. Using that registration link, you will register with the city as a vendor, and that vendor ID will allow you to register through our Austin Energy online rebating portal as a participating contractor request. So with that Austin Energy registration, you're going to need to submit some required contractor documents, TDLR license, workers' comp, auto insurance, and liability. We'll receive that registration, and we're going to send you next steps, which is going to be our registration checklist and access to our LMS online training courses. So the updated process is going to require contractors to complete 4 courses in that online learning system, and make sure that you complete the registration checklist, which will be sent to you after registering in EUCP. The required LMS course certifications are going to be required program docs, FACTA, our administrative training, and then our technical training. Once all of this is completed and submitted to our Solar at inbox, we'll review your registration and confirm all requirements are met and send you an official welcome letter if approved, and enable your ECP access. And here's the same timeline, or here's the same process, but just with more of in a timeline format. One thing to point out is once you are a participating contractor, you will have annual participating contractor document requirements. So renewed insurance policies, renewed TDLR license, you'll get notified through ECP that these are expiring or expired, and you'll need to send over those updated documents. And for solar trainings, we will require renewed FACTA training and renewed required program documents. So that's going to be our code of conduct and our contractor handbook. As I said, active participating contractors will not be required to complete those online courses until we begin that renewal process in 2026. We'll be very clear about that communication, and we'll send over instructions and more details on the timeline for that. All right, so shade analysis requirements. If your TSRF is less than 75%, we will request a shade analysis through ECP. These must be conducted on site and in person. Your analysis should include a layout that displays where each measurement was taken, and any objects emitted from the report. So all the details should match our ECP measures, and the average TSRF in that shade report should be at least 75%. Feel free to reach out to Solar Ad if you do have any questions about these shade analysis. I know it's sometimes hard to communicate over ECP, so don't be afraid to reach out through email. All right, any questions that are unanswered in the chat? It's like, Nina, you got the feasibility question answered. All right. Feel free to keep dropping those questions in the chat and we'll get them answered as we go. All right, I'm going to hand it over now. I believe to Megan.
Thanks, Ruby. I was just thinking that I think these are mine. Okay. So hello again, everyone. Looking at the life of a solar project. So the process in Austin is probably something that everybody on this call is familiar with, but just to call out a few specific details that you want to be aware of at each step. So during the application phase, when you're submitting the rebate, if you've got questions about that submittal, please reach out to us at solar@austinenergy.com. You need to make sure that you've got that solar education number, the customer agreement form, and the system layout. And again, as Ruby and Athena both mentioned, make sure that these forms are updated and not updated after the signature is made. That is very important, and we will find that on those contracts. So please don't do that. In terms of permitting, the City of Austin Development Services Department owns that process. So if you've got questions on the account setup or getting your electrical contractor registration ready to go, anything like that, you're going to contact DSD. The type of permit that you're looking for is the Aux Power electrical permit. That is the one that you'll use for any and all solar and or battery storage projects in Austin. And of course, it will apply for that on Austin Build and Connect. So during installation, of course, if you've got questions about design, please do reach out to us at solarinspections@austinenergy.com ahead of time. You can always schedule a pre-con with us if you've got questions and want to meet us out on site. You can also call for a pre-wire ref inspection, any of those meetings as you're ready for them. So just make sure that you're calling for those in time before you cover up walls or any of that conduit that's going to be covered up. course, during that step, you also want to make sure to get that meter variance in ahead of time. So be sure that you're asking for those variances ahead of time or before you install anything or put anything up on the walls. Shutdowns, just make sure that you're planning ahead for that and getting that scheduled so that you're not, running into any delays with that. And where you'll go to access these is, of course, the ABNC portal or ECP for the rebate documentation. So then, of course, an inspection, you can reach out to us again at solarinspections@austenergy.com. We will conduct the final inspection. We'll use dig pages 77 through 79 of the inspection checklist to kind of look through your project and make sure everything looks good. And then at that point, we will also look at permit closure. However, there's a slightly new process in that we will first pass the final inspection. And then within 5 to 10 business days, once you've got your PV meter and PTO, that is when your permit moves to final status. So again, when I was talking about earlier, the 305 versus the final solar inspection, if you have, let's say you don't need a PV meter, or if you have a battery only project, that's where you'll use that 305. And at inspection, you will actually see that permit close afterwards. However, if you are waiting on a PV meter, of course, you'll be waiting for the DMO team to come out and install that meter within 5 to 10 business days of the past final solar inspection. You want to make sure that all of that paperwork is looking good and is ready to go so that there's no questions when they get there. So make sure that that meter variance that has been approved already is uploaded to your permit. All that shutdown work has been completed at that point. Really, that should be done prior to the inspection. And then you'll, of course, get that PV meter. Finally, the closure of the EECP rebate application is the last step here. So what happens is that we'll close out that post-inspection step and it'll move on to QA review or quality assurance review. If you have questions on that step, or if you're not sure if something's pending there, you can reach out to solar@austenergy.com. And of course, we will be reaching out to you if there are any corrections or any details that we need to get updated there. All right, looking at commercial projects. Anything over 500 kilowatts AC, you will need to submit a DGPA wire diagram and the following. So you'll need to get AE review and approval. Of course, that applies to anything over 25, but it definitely applies if you're going over 500. You also need to provide a PE sealed electrical one-line diagram if the panels are not parallel with the roof, if there are batteries, or for commercial projects. And then, of course, confirm if metering equipment is on the approved metering equipment list before you install, and make sure that that gets approved prior so that if you guys need metering field consultations or any of that, you can get that scheduled before you put anything up on the wall. And that way you can make sure everything looks good before you install that system. All right. Oh, and apologies, I was reading that wrong. Oh man, I can't believe I did that. Under 500 kW. My apologies, everyone. That was for under 500 kW. If I go to the next slide now, we're talking about over 500 kW. Okay, I thought that felt a little weird. My apologies. So under 500, you'll need that DGPA wire diagram, PE seal document, again, if you've got batteries or if they're not parallel for their commercial projects. And again, just make sure all of that is teed up beforehand. Now, if we're looking at commercial projects over 500 kW, you will need those, as well as the PE sealed electrical one line and schematic drawings. You'll need to confirm the existing CT metering equipment, again, is on that approved metering equipment list. For anything over a megawatt, you'll also need a feasibility study. So keep in mind that there are additional requirements with ERCOT once you get to a certain threshold. If you have several grouped projects, do reach out to us ahead of time at solarinspections@austenergy.com to make sure that the total project capacity can be accommodated with the existing infrastructure. And that way, again, you guys aren't building before you get those approvals and know that you can accommodate that extra capacity. All right. How to process enrollments using EECP. I'm going to turn this back over to Athena.
Hey, everybody. All right. Okay. So how to process in EECP. So EECP stands for Energy Efficiency Collaboration Platform. This is where you're going to add all of the documents, apply for rebates, and there's also informations about guidelines and things like that in our publication page. So also, this is where you're going to get the LOIs, LOAs, all of those things. They're going to come from EECP. So just make sure that that's on your safe sender list. Please make sure that also everyone who is in EECP has an individual account. We want one login per person. We don't want people sharing individual accounts. And then if you are inactive or there's an insurance issue, or if like password changes, please email Austin Energy EES contractors at austinenergy.com, and they can fix those things for you. So I know we have our Solar Act, which you're more than welcome to email to, but we will just direct you to our EES contractors to help you with those problems there. All right, so for the residential workflow step, you'll get an application, or you'll start an application in EECP and input the solar quiz number. You'll upload the CAF, and then you'll also put in a layout. This is where you'll edit measures. Make sure that the measures match the layout. That's kind of what we're looking for. We also want to make sure that the information on the CAF matches EECP as well. Excuse me. And then,
oh my God.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway.
Somebody have a question? Oh, okay. No worries. Okay, so then we'll do a pre-inspection. This is where we're just doing a double checks on ourselves, making sure that and then once it's all complete, we will send out the solar confirmation letter. And then once you have that confirmation letter, you're good to install. So the installation out in the field, you're going to go ahead and do that. Then you'll come back into EECP. The workflow step is called installation. That's where you're going to update any information if it changed, enter new build information, and then you're also going to upload the final invoice. If anything did change, please just upload extra documentation to reflect those changes. And then you'll click process. So you still have to click process. So you can save your work, of course, but if you don't click process, we won't know to move it to the next step. Within this installation step, we do ask that you, we have a question in there asking if you have requested final inspection. So this step is simultaneous with the installation step, but it does not happen within EECP. So you'll go into A/B/C, you'll request that inspection, and then EECP, you're going to answer that question yes, and then process it. So those will happen at the same time. Once all those things are good, we'll have it in post-inspection, do a review. And then if there's any corrections, we'll reach out to you all. This is kind of like that last step before your customer gets the payment. So we do want to make sure that you all are getting those emails and reaching out, doing all those things. And then after that, we issue the payment. And this goes to your customer. All right, so similar steps for commercial. So we'll have the application. This has an encumbrance step within the application phase. And this is basically like saying, we'll save the amount for you, but we still need more required documents. So within that encumbrance step, or before the encumbrance step, we'll ask for the CAF, the layout, your bill, then we will encumber it. We want the DGPA and the contract. Also, you'll enter measures, and again, just make sure that everything is matchy. From there, we'll have an RCA step. So please make sure that, or that's where we will review if it's above or below council limit. Afterwards, the pre-inspection step, that's where we're going to give you the LOI. So again, we're just doing a double check on all of our documents, things like that. Once you receive that letter of intent, that's when you are like securing your funding. Next step here, again, same as residential, you're doing this kind of concurrently, you're requesting the inspection, and then going into EECP and updating that installation step. Of course, if things changed, make sure to reflect that in EECP. Afterwards, we'll do the post-inspection, QA review, and then the initiate payment. So it'll either be a one-time check if you're going to CBI, or if you're doing the bill credits, those will start for your customer. All right, so our last program, standard offer, is also very similar. but this one does require a couple more documentation. So again, the application step, during the application new phase, you'll submit information about the system host and the system owner. We do want to have a feasibility study if it's over 500 kW, and then of course put all the stuff in the measures. Once we have that stuff, we will encumber it. This is where Austin Energy will give you a new address, and so it'll be an address for the system. So the solar system will get its own address. We also want to see the DGPA and a signed contract in the warranty. Once we have all that information, we'll go to application approval. That's where you'll get your letter of approval and you're able to install. Again, same as before with the other programs, installation step and calling for a final inspection. Those will happen at the same time. Call for inspection, make sure to process everything in EACP, upload the documents that you need, and then it'll move into post-inspection. During post-inspection, a new account will be created for the system. Everything will move through to QA/QC, and then we'll verify the payment, and that's where we're going to process our recs and issue the production payments. All right, so that's standard offer, and then how to process residential rebates in EECP. All right, okay. So for the residential program, you're going to log into EECP, you're going to start a new enrollment, and this is what it's going to look like. What we're looking for here, we want to make sure that you put in your reference number, whether it's new or existing construction type, does it have energy storage, if you're adding to a system, and then we want the account number and the customer information. It'll pre-populate if you put an account number in there. So the account name, all those things will pre-populate if it's an existing construction, right? Then same page, but just a little lower, you'll have customer information. So add those things out. The applicant and the account holder might be different. So like the person applying for the rebate needs to either be on a TCAD or listed as the property owner. If you're a developer of new builds, you can be the applicant. You just have to provide a W-9. And then for residential, the mailing address is where the check is going to be delivered. So like the default is the mailing address. So just make sure that you're looking at the mailing address if it's different than where the house you're actually installing in. All right, and then the last bit on this application page is that you will click to see who the payee is. So payee has to be an Austin Energy account holder, an authorized user, a TCAD verified property owner, or again, like a developer with a W-9. Once you're done with that, click save. And then you'll go to the document section. So for documents, just remember that anything that you upload can't be deleted. So if you're working on a bunch of projects, just make sure that you're like focusing on like one project, one CAF. It's all the same thing, right? Then we're looking for things like layouts, CAFs, shade analysis, project timeline extension requests, things like that. So anything you upload within the document section, just remember it can't be deleted. Here is an example of what we're looking for in terms of layouts. So we want to see the details. They should match the CAF. They should also match what is in EECP, a NABCEP certification. Of course, the customer address and the installation address. So some of the things that we do look for is like if you're doing like a bunch of them, you're saying unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, right? Like a bunch of projects in one like development or something like that. We want to make sure that the addresses that you're putting on the layout match the CAF, match EECP, match our account record. So if it has a unit 1, unit 2, things like that, just put that in there. That way we have like all of our things, all of our ducks in a row. And then of course you guys want your company name on the layout. Okay. And then for the measures page, so this is the last page that you'll upload before you submit, update before you submit. So click on the white space and the fields will open up. We're looking for the total cost. When you're entering in the orientation of things, you can add new orientations. So we have up to 5 orientations. So group things that have the same tilt and the same azimuth together. And then also just a reminder that the minimum array tilt is 5 degrees. And then input fields, also make sure that you have your contractor estimated annual generation and then the customer annual consumption. And they need to match the CAF. So whatever you have in the CAF should match what's in EECP. Once you're done with the measures page, then you can click process. And that will be, once you hit process, then you can send it off to us and we will review. There are some warnings that EECP will give you before you are able to process if things happen. So the TSRF under 75, you will get a warning on this. Production is too high, so over 108, or if it's too 100, or if the production is too high, over 110, offset of the consumption. And then also if the dollars per watt is high, that's kind of an indication that batteries are included. So please go back and like update the application page so that the measures page looks good. If you get these warnings, click on cancel and then do the corrections, read the warnings. Worked really hard to have them be very detailed. So read the warning, do the updates, and then go ahead and try to submit again. So real quick on the cost per watts. So this is just kind of a warning to see if we made sure that batteries are included. So if you go back to your measures page, the project does have batteries and you wanted to just make sure that we update and say, yes, it does have batteries. That's why the cost is so high. Or this is not a hard stop. So if that's what the price is, you can still move forward. So sometimes we will review some things and we'll still have some questions or some things needs updates. When something needs to be reviewed, we are going to put the application in application incomplete. This will automatically send an email to you all telling you what you need to change in order to make it right. Once you make those changes, please update the application to requested updates complete, and then it'll automatically send us an email that says that it's complete. If you don't do these steps here, then we'll never know that it's complete. And so we won't ever be able to like review it. So just once you've done all the things that you said that we asked to change, just change that reason code and then we can actually review it. So an application is successful when Austin Energy issues the solar rebate confirmation letter. So they look similar to this. And again, if you, it'll come from EECP. So just make sure that the safe sender list, that the EECP email is on your safe sender list. All right. And with, oh wait, I think these are still mine, right? Yes. Okay. So how to process the installation steps. So once you have gone through what we just discussed, there will be some information that Austin Energy will update just to do some checks, things like that. And then the next time you guys go into EECP will be for the installation step. So in the installation workflow step, again, you're going to click on the white space and make any changes that happened out in the field. So like you added some panels, you changed orientation, things like that. Just click in the white space and update the information accordingly. Once you've updated that, you will also need to update it, upload a signed invoice. So the invoice looks, something like this, where we're looking for your company name. We're also looking for the installation and the customer's name. So installation address, customer name. We want that stuff to match the CAF. Then we also want it to be signed. So whoever signed the CAF, please make sure that they're signing the invoice as well. Also, just doing a double check on the date of the signing. So it should be after the installation is complete, is when that invoice should be signed. We also want a description of the equipment. So whatever you added, if it's updated during the installation step, just make sure that it's added here. And then also the total cost of the system. And the last thing that we are looking for is the warranty. So we want a 10-year workmanship warranty. That should be also included. Okay, and then with that, I'll hand it over to Megan. Thank you.
Thanks, Athena. All right. So looking at requesting inspections. So the installation workflow step in EACP is going to look like this. And as Athena mentioned earlier, you're going to click on the white space anytime you want to edit any of these drop downs or any of this detail over here to the right. Be sure to make changes to the measurement properties per your as-built design. So if you guys have made any changes whatsoever, we do want to see that reflected here. We're going to verify that both at post-inspection and at QA review. So just make sure that that aligns. This is the last chance to update the measures before it goes into those last couple of steps. So please do get that in here at the installation step before sending it over to post-inspection so that we can get those measures lined up and ready to go. One other thing that you're going to do at that step is upload an invoice. Keep in mind, again, as Athena mentioned earlier, everything should match from all the way to the signing and customer signatures, all the way to the invoice and closing out the project. So your company name should be consistent with on EACP and on the CAF. So if you're using subs, just make sure that they are on the CAF and that your invoice matches the contractor that submitted the enrollment. So if the sub is not the one submitting the enrollment details, make sure they're listed on the CAF, but also make sure that that electrical contractor that is listed on the permit and listed on the CAF is also listed here on the invoice. Again, make sure the customer name and installation address match. Customer signature should be the same person who signed the CAF, so that should be consistent throughout. Date signing should be after installation is complete, and we will verify that date. So again, just keep in mind all these extra little details here. The equipment description, that's really important for us. That must be listed, and we need to make sure that that, again, all matches what you've listed in the measure details. And then the total project cost should match the application cost. If you guys have done any other add-ons, let's say you've done LED lighting or anything else like that that you've added on, please just make sure that the invoice that's attached in EACP matches exactly what was submitted with the application and shouldn't include any of those other add-ons that are not part of that rebate application. Again, costs that are not eligible for federal tax credits or local incentives must be itemized separately. So again, keep that in mind. And then make sure you're also including that warranty notice on that as well. Alrighty, processing residential rebates, requesting inspections. So I'm going to say this several more times before we end today and before we end on the next few calls, but just keep in mind that this is now done through the Austin Build and Connect portal. So whenever you're there, you will log into the portal. If you're trying to find the inspection specifically, there is a slightly different place than where you go to apply for applications. So what you'll do is click on that link to the far right. It's a little blurry and hard to read in here. I apologize for that, but when you're in the application, you should be able to see this. There should be the My Inspections tab at the top of the page. Whenever you click on that, it'll pop up with that next window with all of the permits that you're eligible for inspections for. So what you're going to do is select the permits that you want inspections for and you're ready for. And then on the final page, it's going to ask you to enter in contact details, availability details, anything about that inspection that you think we need to know and that we can try and accommodate. Please add that to the notes. There's no character limits. You can add as much detail as you want there. And then click submit and request inspection. Keep in mind that the portal is going to do something very weird. And unfortunately, this is not something that, as far as I know, we can change, where it's going to tell you that the inspection is scheduled for the business day following the one where you requested it. But just know, and I think a couple of you mentioned this earlier, that until you've got that solar inspector assigned and until you've got that updated date and time, you do not actually have a scheduled inspection. So even though the portal is going to show it's scheduled for the next day, that is not the case until we update that time and date. And you should receive that on the confirmation email as well. All right, more on requesting solar inspections in A, B, and C. So there's a few applicable inspection types for, I'll say most aux permits. There are some applicable inspection request types there that you may never use or you may use sometimes. A good example of this is the 114 extension of work. So if your permit is going to expire, but you guys are right in the middle of install or you're waiting on a shutdown, you can file or you can request that 114 continuance of work, and we can extend that permit. But other than things like that, the ones that you'll typically use are going to be the 100 building pre-con, the 301 rough inspections, the 304 temporary inspections for CT meters, and then the 305 or final solar inspections. Again, emails will be sent to you guys and to your customers upon AE review and permit approval. Inspection requested, scheduled, postponed, passed, failed, and will include inspector notes, including those deficiencies. One note on those, if you, for some reason, are not getting those emails, you can also view all of these in the details section of the workflow on that permit in ABNC. If you have questions about that, feel free to consult our permitting guide or just reach out to us at solarinspections@austinenergy.com. And then again, you'll also get notices about the ECP enrollment inspection step updates. So please keep in mind those won't come from Smartsheets anymore. They will come from ABNC. And so whenever you see those, just keep in mind to go and complete that installation step in ECP, and then we'll wrap up that rebate as well. So we've been seeing this forever, but the timeline is now, again, we've transitioned away from FormStack and Smartsheet. If you guys had that link saved, you will now go to a landing page that takes you to the ABNC portal. If you have any issues with scheduling or you're not getting those emails, again, please do reach out to us at solarinspections@austinenergy.com. But hopefully you are seeing those. As long as you've got austintexas.gov as a safe sender, you should see those confirmation emails come through as expected. All right, couple of things to keep in mind here in terms of submission errors. So difference between a rough-in and a pre-wire is capacity. This is a little more obvious in the new system because you really can't really do well, let's just say it this way. If you request a pre-wire auxiliary permit, you're not going to have any capacity on that. And so whenever you're ready for final inspection on that, you're just going to request it. You could do a rough on a pre-wire if needed, but in all honesty, you're probably just going to end up needing that final on a pre-wire only inspection or on a pre-wire only permit. Excuse me, lots of W's there. However, if you do have conduit that's going to be buried up or covered up by walls or anything like that, then please do call for that rough-in before that gets covered so that we can come out and verify that everything looks good and spacing is adequate and everything like that. Keep in mind that the contact person and the contact details that you list within that comment section should include a phone number. I have seen a few that have email addresses. And while it's nice to know, our inspectors use that phone number to call the day of to confirm with the person that's going to be on site. So please do add those details there when you request that inspection. All right, permitting errors. So this is a pretty common thing that we see from time to time. One thing that we want to verify is that you don't have any other electrical permits open other than your auxiliary power permit by the time that you call for final inspection. An exception to that is if you're doing an EV charger or maybe connecting through a backfed breaker, we can sort of make an exception. But in all honesty, what we want to see is that any service work that has to be done is completed prior to that final solar inspection so that, we don't have to open anything back up after you pass that final. It's going to be the same link. So again, that Austin Building Connect portal, go to that inspections tab and look out there. Or if you want to see if you've got other open permits, you can actually use what's called the Open Data Portal permit search. And so that's that bottom box right there. And what this does is it allows you and or your customers to confirm whether or not you do have any other open permits at that address. Even if it's not tied to you, even if another electrical contractor is doing the work, we still want that closed prior to doing the final solar. So just be sure to consult the Open Data Portal, type in your customer's address there and see if they've got any other open repair, remodel, upgrade permits, and then make sure that that work is closed before requesting that final inspection. And again, you can also kind of do this via the ABNC portal, same way you would look for a permit. It's just on the permit search. Alrighty, I'm going to run through the next of these because a few of these a little more quickly because I feel like we're running up against time here. But current transformer meters, how to request an inspection. We have also added this, or will be adding this soon to our design criteria manual. So if you need to consult this in the future, please feel free to look there. But all instrument rated PV meters are required to have CT inspections. For safety purposes, we have instituted a 304 temp inspection first. And the system must remain unenergized for inspection without exception per NFPA 70E. Once you pass that 304 temp inspection, however, we are going to work to notify DMO to install the meter and DG service to be energized. Currently, again, this is still kind of a manual process, so keep in mind we will need you to help us coordinate that step until this gets automated. However, for now, we'll reach out to them, DMO to install the meter and allow the DG service to be energized. CT meters must not be energized prior to metering inspection. And then again, check out the DCM for proper height requirements. Again, once the 304 is passed, that's where we'll request a DMO dispatch come out. Once the CT inspection passes, dispatch will order the meters to be programmed. Once programmed, dispatch is again notified, and then the meters are released for install. Dispatch then updates our AE internal billing system so that everything is online and up and running. And that will include the new net billing meter as well, or the revenue meter. And then AE DMO have 5 business days to wire the CTs and install the CT meter. Once all of that has been completed, then you're ready to request that final solar inspection from us again. Again, this is only if you've got disconnects that are higher than 400 amps. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. There's a little bit more nuance, but basically, if you're over that range, then expect to have a CT meter and to need to go through this process. All right, process the ECP installation step after scheduling final inspection. I'm not going to go through this too much because we really did this on a few other slides, but just again, as another reminder, if you did not pass this step before passing the final inspection, make sure that this gets done, because oftentimes what will happen is you guys will pass final and then months will go by and the installation step is still just sort of sitting there stuck. And so these customers are waiting on their rebates. And there's really not anything we can do except reach out to you guys and ask you to close that step. So please do make sure you're doing that if possible before that inspection is scheduled. All right, again, we already kind of went through invoices, so I'm not going to go over this here, but just keep in mind they should be signed by the counterpart, customer or subcontractor if, again, they're listed on the CAF. Large projects consisting of multiple interconnections, multifamily, or multiple ECP applications can have a single invoice, but itemize the projects within that invoice so that we can easily match the totals of the invoice and the ECP details. All right, when are engineer stamped plans needed? So if you are inside city limits, you will need these for tilted panels when they're not flush or parallel with the roof, or for panels that extend past the roof line and are going to go into those fire walkways, or if you're on the downtown network. So beyond that, if you are inside the city or in the ETJ, you also need engineer stamped plans if you've got a new structure. So let's say you've got a ground mount, if you're using solar roof tiles, if your system's going to be over 500 kW or above AC, and then for commercial or utility side interconnections. For any of those, you will be required to have an engineer stamp on your plan set. Please upload those to the permit so that we've got that noted there as well. Alrighty, almost there. So the last step in your ECP enrollment is going to be your QA correction step. So QA review, again, quality assurance review is what happens right after that post-inspection, after all the measures have been entered and all those details are there. This is our last step to make sure that everything looks good for that rebate application and everything was built either per design or per the as-built design as updated. And then once everything looks good, that is when we'll approve the QA step and then move on to initiate payment. This rebate checks will typically be sent to customers within 2 to 4 weeks. Apologize for that timeline. It's just takes a little bit to process, print, and send. So please do note if your customer is just waiting and they've just gone through QA review, let them know it'll still be a couple weeks, but to keep an eye out for that check in the mail. If needed, contractors will be contacted to provide relevant information. Again, please get back to us ASAP, same way that we would do for any of these other steps as well, so that we can get these rebates out to customers. And then email solar@austerenergy.com if you have any questions. All right, that said, we are now going to pause for questions, and I do see at least a couple in here. So I'm going to read through these. First one is from Anna. Says, we have a failed inspection on record because I didn't receive the email with scheduled time and date. I've already paid the inspection fee given the issue was not due to not receiving the notification. Is it possible for this failed inspection to be removed and not counted? Yeah, this is a great question, Anna, and especially while we're trying to work through the nuances of both systems. I'll just say, please do email us at solarinspections@austerenergy.com. And we're hoping that now that we've got the the Smartsheet landing page up and we'll be in one system going forward and not in two, it should take us a little bit less time to get through these schedules each day. But just know that we have been a little bit delayed there, so I apologize for that. But that said, if you did not receive a notice, we'll go back and just confirm whether, it was because it got sent to your electrical contractor email address and maybe you guys aren't using that or not checking that regularly. We'll also go to look to see if your customer received and all those, and we can kind of let you know. The one kind of caveat to all this, or I guess the piece of good news here, is that we did add a solar inspections email to the permit application itself. So on any new permit applications, you should fill out that email address so that all inspection emails will also go to that email address. But apologies, because I know we ran into some issues with that right when we rolled this project out. And so we added it, just here a couple months ago. So it shouldn't be an issue in the future, but at least for all the permits in the interim that do not have that inspections contact, we may run into this. So please do just send us an email at Solar Inspections. All right, so for meter collar installs, the approved meter collar and the utility meter enclosure, how do we handle a system shutdown for a service upgrade when we're installing ESS with a meter collar mid? All right, Justin, I'm just going to ask you to confirm if any of this is for the new Enphase meter collars or for new products in general. You will have to wait to install those until they are on the approved Austin Energy list. However, if they are on that list, you guys are welcome to do that work. I believe, well, for a transfer switch, you can do an AES permit. For a meter collar, I'd have to go back and confirm. I think you could also do that under an AES, although it may be a repair permit. So let me take that one back and get back to you. And of course, anybody on my team, if you know the answer, feel free to jump in here. All right, and I'll pass it back over to Ruby. I think that's all. Oh, wait. One more question, and I apologize, Serena, because I was not sure how to answer this one, but question is, when should I submit a recycling report, before or after installing solar panels for commercial? Anybody want to take that one? All right, I don't see any mute buttons getting pressed, so apologies, Serena. Could you please do us a favor and reach out to us at solar@austinandrew.com with that question? Perfect. Thanks, Anna. All right, and then Justin, same thing. If you'll send an email to solarinspections@austinandrew.com, we'll reach back out to you there. All right, any other questions before we move on? All right, and with that, I'll pass it back to Ruby. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Megan. I just dropped the attendance poll back in the chat. Make sure you're filling that out before leaving us today. If you drop your email or company name in the chat, that we were not going to count that as attended. So make sure you're filling out that form. All right. As always, we will send over these slides with their links by the end of the day today. So you'll have access to all this content and be able to access these helpful links and who to contact. We actually have to change this solar education course. So ignore that first bullet. The education course is now going to be on our Solar Solutions webpage under For Your Home. If you have any questions about accessing that course, then or the training materials, then let us know. I'll update this and make sure that the correct link is in there before sending it out. One thing to note here, oh no, it's the next slide, but any metering questions, make sure that you're reaching out to the contacts listed here. They have multiple contacts for different needs, so make sure that you are reading the different descriptions for each contact. For ECP questions or ECP login issues and access, make sure that you're emailing Austin Energy EES Contractor. Feel free to CC us, but every time you reach out to Solar it's just gonna take longer to then relay that information to our ECP contact. So if you want to cut down that wait time for accessing your ECP, just make sure that you're contacting that email directly. All right, and that's about it. Thank you for joining us. We'll send out these slides, and yeah, make sure that you're filling out that attendance poll. Yeah, and we'll come up with that answer so that we can send that over to you when we send the slide deck. Thank you guys, and we'll hang around for a few more minutes just to answer any lingering questions.